Okay, welcome back from break, everybody. What I'm going to do now is just on here, just do a number of different trees and just kind of getting some forms and some shapes and talking about contour, meaning the outside big form, big structure of a tree, and then how I would break that up. So with contour, oftentimes I will almost think like, what's the big shape first? So let's start with my favorite trees. I love oak trees, and I just mixed up some warm, dark color here. It's primarily burnt umber and ultramarine with a little bit of Indian yellow and a little bit of quinacridone. But anyway, it's just going to be kind of warm colors. And what I'm going to do is the first one's just going to be an oak tree. And what I like about oak trees is kind of their canopy form. They just kind of have this umbrella structure to them, right? And so I'm just thinking, what's the outline shape of a pine tree?
Oak tree?
I'm sorry, not a pine tree, an oak tree. Sorry about that. And so what is just the big shape? It's just kind of a bunch of umbrella forms to it. Like when I think of like cottonwood trees, oftentimes I will look for the underlying structure of a like a snow cone or an ice cream cone. Whereas with oak trees, I'm looking for kind of this umbrella structure. So as you begin to paint some trees over, over and again, you'll begin to kind of realize that there are some shapes, but I don't want to paint it, redundantly or overly simplistically. I want to, within that, see what makes this oak tree different from its neighboring oak tree, and what makes that cottonwood different from that cottonwood. But again, a big kind of overlying shape is this canopy, this umbrella, and I think that's why I like them so much. Is I used to climb up and hang out in them, and they very strong, right? These super amazing branches that you could just go and literally lay on. You could have like you and 3 friends all laying on one big huge branch. I've talked about a horse that we used to have named Katrina, that I could climb up on its back and climb up into the higher branches on the oak tree. Then the horse would just kind of mosey around and eat grass, and then when I needed back down, it would just come over and I could climb back down onto its back again. And so, different trees, if you grew up in a different area, maybe you're going to be more attracted to palm trees or whatever else. But, for me, oak trees have this kind of safety. There's this safety and security in this shape, this arched canopy form that I really like. So anyways, so there's this kind of roughly an outline of an oak tree. Then I can quickly kind of fill it in. I also know that things are radiating generally on all trees from the center out, right? The branches are kind of, with oak trees, you get really interesting structures and shapes, but I can kind of like, when I'm filling them in, oftentimes I will kind of do something like that, where it's just, and I can kind of break it up and make it a little more interesting. But there, if you saw that, just this kind of a silhouette, would you think oak tree?
Yes.
Hope so. So, what is an oak tree? It's trunk, its branches, and millions of leaves. So I could have done it that way, right? I could have come in and drawn my trunk and then just filled it in, ... But I didn't need to. You guys can tell, hopefully again, that it is an oak tree just by its big silhouetted shape, its contour, right? Its outline. And then it's up to me to kind of figure out what of it is interesting. You know, maybe this base is too strong. And then another thing that I like to think about a lot of times when I'm painting trees in different forms is a actual Michelangelo, supposedly a Michelangelo quote about when he was sculpting David. And you know, he used a gigantic piece of marble, and out of it he sculpted David. And supposedly, again, the quote is something to the effect of, "I just removed everything that wasn't David," right? So if I painted it big and really simplistic, please mute if you have a dog. And I could come back in and either using Q-tips, or I'm going to go ahead and zoom in a little closer since we only have the one tree on there for now. I can just, you know, I could use paper towels, Q-tips, I could use palette knife, I can use anything I need. Let's see if an old credit card here or an Amazon card. Right? Just removing what is not pine tree. Isn't that kind of fun? So I can get the big, basic, simplified shape in there and come back in and either just do removing or whatever it is. So there I've got big, basic shape. Now let's add some light and color. I'm just going to pretend it's kind of a midday, and I'm just mixing up kind of the ugliest olivey green that you've ever seen, mixing red, yellow, and blue. I know it's off scene here. What I have is my palette that was in the freezer during the last couple of days, and I'm just grabbing some colors from there. That's how I save my paints. And I'm just going to go ahead and put in some dark foliage very quickly. So, thinking this is foliage that's going to be underneath the light foliage, the light leaves that I let those worms kind of do that. But I'm not, you haven't seen me paint a leaf yet. I'm just thinking the big structure. Please feel free to ask questions as I'm going about this. I know I'm kind of attacking this tree pretty quickly. Now I'm going to go ahead and lighten that green, that ugly green up, adding a little more yellow, a tiny bit more red. A lot of times the oak tree's got this kind of reddish green. So these are the leaves that would be picking up more light. And because it's too light, so I'm just going to darken that just a touch. You kind of got to go by feel, but I know that if I want my sky back here, that if I go that light, that the tops of the leaves would kind of disappear.
It's frozen.
So now I'm thinking, what light, these leaves in this area are coming towards us more than the leaves that are on top, right? I don't want it to just be a flat posterized form. I want these leaves to feel like they're so used to having my palette right in front of me. It's interesting to reach over to the left. But by 5 foot vertical versus a horizontal is it goes all the way almost down to the ground. So I've had to move my palette out of the way because normally I like the palette in front of the. So you saw I went from dark, and hopefully this tree is beginning to get the semblance of form, of a three-dimensionality, just like our clouds did, right? You need a bottom, a side, and a top as they kind of rotate around each other. Also with trees, oftentimes, as you will have the other side. If you're seeing through any of these sky holes, you might be seeing all the way to the far side of the tree. Oftentimes within the tree can be a little less dense. A lot of the foliage will grow along the outsides. Different types of trees do different things. Get a little dark here just so I can build up some. Oops. I picked up white with that dark. Can hint at some tree trunks coming up and through. Did that make sense, you guys? How quickly that was able to get from point A to point B to point C by starting off simple, just thinking the outline, the big shape that kind of gives it its personality and its movement. Move us back just a touch.
I will definitely be bookmarking this once you post it to YouTube.
Oh, good. And yeah, this I was just thinking, like, I should probably clean my paintbrush. This is the first time I've cleaned my paintbrush.
Is that how we re-watch these recordings? Is we have to go to YouTube to see them again?
I'm afraid so, yes.
Well, or on Facebook, you post them.
Yeah, but you're seeing them through you're seeing them through YouTube.
Thank you.
Yeah, that short little one that I just showed you was that one's just directly sitting on the Facebook page, but the classes will be.
I'm sorry you broke up there.
Oh, I also just kind of got into my painting and forgot what I was saying. Some of the videos are directly on the Facebook page. You can find all of them on the Facebook page with their links. And you can see their links.
Thank you.
What I'm going to do is quickly just take a messy brush and I'm just going to soften the edges of the top a little bit. And kind of where I want a little bit of softness.
Nice.
And just see how that all of a sudden just that little bit kind of appears like there's some leaves kind of sticking up against the background a little bit. And you know, I want to be irregular about it. I don't want to get overbearing or make it all perfect. That having variety is so important. That's what makes nature appear natural, is variety and irregularity. Once we start to overly render and overly plan everything, we just, again, I call it the English gardener's syndrome, where we just start lining up everything and everything's the same and everything's trimmed to perfection. And, you know, that can be beautiful and that can be great. You know, we've all seen those amazing gardens, but not the most interesting.
Michael, is that background, is that background the primed canvas, or did you paint a sort of gray sky?
It's
well,
painted over an old painting. So yeah, it's repainted over. I don't know what was
Okay,
under
well, now
there.
now you're coming in with the blue. I see that. I understand what you're doing. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, no, that was a good question. Yeah, it was just white. I don't know even what I painted over it with, if it was gesso, if it was over in acrylic. It feels like oil prime, or the matte medium oil white, which is pretty much one of my favorite surfaces to paint on, is old paintings with matte, fast matte white paint over the top. So what I'm doing is I'm painting the sky kind of bluey, nice sunny day. Again, hopefully you just kind of want to go lay under there in the shade and talk with a friend or read a book, or, take a nap with your puppy. But what I'm doing is I am kind of just painting up to the edges a little bit, cleaning my brush a lot. And then I will bring the edges of those trees back, because otherwise it gets really messy. So can you guys kind of see that little bit of white line around it? That if I just left
Yes.
it would look really odd. But if you're anything like me, when you were starting painting, you're just kind of like, how do you paint up to the edges with oils, with not everything getting mushy and muddy and everything else? And I found, for me, it's about kind of sneaking up to the edge a little bit, figuring out which one's going to have the softer edge. Like, would I rather drag the sky into the tree or the tree into the sky? Sometimes it's a bit of both. And you watch this, as I can use this blue paint now to use it to carve back. So let's make this trunk a little bit less wide. Let's come in and sculpt. You see how I can just put it right across the top and sculpt, and I can give that structure there, because I want a firm trunk, probably, firmer than the leaves areas, right? Let's bring in some sky holes now. I can go right over the top, or I can go to where I kind of cleared out with the Q-tip. Let's do the Q-tip ones first. I want to make sure that I'm not just dabbing into my sky holes and making the same mark over and over. That is my least favorite thing when I see that, is when it's, here's a sky hole, here's a sky hole, here's a sky hole. It's just dab, dab, dab. And it's just this repetition of marks. So what can I do to make my sky holes interesting? And again, we don't want to overdo it.
What color are you using for that? Is that also blue?
Yeah, I just made it a little bit more blue. In fact, a little bit darker. But it's still appearing quite light because it's around.
It looks quite light on the camera, yeah.
So I could probably even get a little darker. Let me add even a little more blue to it. You can also come back in and slightly muddle it. And I also want to have some maybe a little bigger, more lights coming through. But hopefully it's retaining shape of what? Shape of oak tree. All right, I gotta not forget what I'm painting.
Umbrella.
Umbrella tree. Yeah, you guys are never gonna look at an oak tree the same. You're just gonna remember Katrina the horse and Mike laying up there on big, huge branches, never even thinking that the branch might not hold me as a kid, right? They're so huge and so strong. And just being underneath that canopy of leaves. I mean, I swear those are probably some of my favorite memories of childhood. So hopefully you have something like that, or maybe it was the dogwoods that grew at your grandma's house that you still remember, or the amazing magnolias. Hopefully you have some kind of favorite trees or shapes of trees that maybe you didn't even know the names of the trees that you're attracted to. We also had great big huge what are they called, rhododendrons, that were so big that they were able to be carved out to kind of resemble Dr. Seuss books, with their interesting trunks and everything else. And I think that probably is what attracted me. And now my family has 3 Japanese maples here in our yard. And well, probably 2 now. It looks like one of them didn't make it through the winter. But I love looking into those and seeing the interesting trunks and kind of carving the different shapes as you trim the trees. If you've been to the Japanese gardens in Portland near the zoo, they have the amazing trees there that are so beautifully carved. It's gonna be a little messier now and just kind of come around, wiping as I'm kind of getting rid of a lot of that white little force field looking thing around the edges of the tree. Some of these feel a little bit solid still, so maybe I would come back in and a couple more sky holes where, but I'm aware of where do the trunks go, because a sky hole over a trunk will not work. So I need to kind of think, where's the trunk going? How do the leaves grow onto that trunk? And possibly, and just again being a little bit careful not to go crazy on too many sky holes. I hate to say it, but that is one of the biggest gives I see when I'm judging or looking at beginners' work is too many sky holes and all the same shape, all the same, just dot, 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 sky hole, sky hole.
I have no idea what you could possibly be talking about.
I'm sure you don't. Okay, what do you think? Oak tree.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you've done
Very
in
fun.
15 minutes what takes me 3 hours.
Where's the horse?
The good grass is just over here, down at the creek. Very fun. Okay, let's get another tree, shall we? We have oak tree. I've got a whole bunch of them here. I printed up a whole bunch of just different tree shapes. So let's get a pine tree. I think that's going to be kind of important.
Have you got any Norwegian pines where the branches sort of curve upward? I find those very difficult.
Do you? Yes, I think.
Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I was just
That looks like a Norwegian pine that's been in a prison camp or something.
I was gonna do this.
Oh yeah, that's a
this
little
is
more.
actually called. This is a tall pine, actually, where the leaves stop growing at the. Leaves stop growing at the bottom and only at the top. You see those sometimes, but yeah, I just wanted to do kind of a generic pine tree, Oregon style here, or Pacific Northwest, anyways. So let's do something like that. We're gonna.
Most of the pine trees in Oregon are east of the mountains. On this side, they're mostly fir trees.
Oh, all right. Thank you.
Oh.
Yeah. Thank you.
And are sequoias and redwoods the same?
I think they're in the same
Yeah, that's-
family, but they differ slightly.
Okay, so pine tree, we do inevitably kind of have oftentimes, so there's kind of trunk, I need to go down a little or up a little bit, right? And we do kind of get what, triangle shape roughly, right? So if I wanted to think kind of the big generic shape of pine tree, it's kind of that, right? Kind of. And if I wanted to do tree really generically,
Oh, stop, that hurts my eyes.
Oh,
All right. There's some Christmas ornaments for you. There you go. Christmas. So that's what happens so often with students is they, you know, again, it's kind of that air freshener thing. And it's okay to think, you know, yeah, what is the big shape? Like this, you know, is I put a couple different umbrella forms together, but truthfully, it's one big canopy, right? And a lot of pine trees are kind of one big triangle, as it were, right? And that's fine. And I can use that. But what I'm gonna do is say, well, you know what? It's definitely irregular. Some things come out further. They get further out as they go bigger. They bend up and they get, you know, they've got hanging down. What are the outside things that say, you know, what's different about this pine tree than another one? And I want to be kind of, you know, I want to observe. I want to say, you know, this is happening, that's happening, this isn't happening. That's, you know, maybe it is a little more verdant on one side than the other, a little more foliage. Some branches really reach up towards the sun. Others are kind of reaching down. What is making them interesting? Okay, so I kind of got my outside shape. And already that's much more interesting, right? And it's still just like the very beginning of the pine of my oak tree. If you were hopefully, let me pull this back a touch. If you were to look at it, you might not say that's a well-painted pine tree, but hopefully you would look at it and go, yeah, that is a pine tree. There is some character, some interest, some movement to it. Do the same thing that I did before. And let's say that's, you know, Michelangelo's David. I'm just going to take out all the things that are not pine tree. Look, remember kind of where my trunk is coming in. I can use this, I can use paper towel, I can use all sorts of things. Let's maybe use a paper towel, start picking up a little more paint.
So when you remove, there's a lot more brown. What color was your basic shape?
Burnt umber and ultramarine blue. Hold on one second, please. Over here. Handing off the car keys to my wife. Sorry about that. Yeah, so I used a burnt umber and ultramarine blue mixture to make a dark. And you guys know me well enough by now probably to know that I don't mind some warm reds. And wherever I wipe away will also dry very fast. It would be dry enough to paint back into tomorrow if I wanted to be a little bit patient, which I won't. I'll just paint over it today. But also just having it thinner. And variations in the edge quality just by simply having more paint, less paint. And the good thing is, like, let's say, you know what, this edit was too big. You know, I've chopped that up too much. Let's bring some structure back. I can just come back in. So a lot of times I'm using, and I could have painted this much thinner so that I could apply paint easier too, or I could have done it in acrylic so it's dry so much faster. I'm going to grab a big brush and I'm just going to soften those edges really quick. And then I'm going to come back in and wipe out. So I'm going to use a wipe out technique really quickly just to give this form. That color is beautiful. Really nice, rich, warm.
I do better than you do. Pine trees, obviously.
A little bit of reflection. Let's see if I can move that to, nope. I'll move the camera. Sorry, it's going to be bouncy for a second. I'm just trying to beat the glare a little bit. I'll come in front of the sun, the light. There we go. Nice big dark shape. Just all right, just go to my big shape. So I'm just thinking the contour shape.
I hope the sound on the recording is not all broken up.
Like my voice.
It's just really, yeah, broken up, and you catch a few words and then you get a blank and then you catch a few more. And I don't know whether it's my system or yours or what.
Yeah,
But the fact that some people are hearing it clearly makes me think that Zoom is capturing it all.
Well, I'm not hearing it clearly either. It's breaking up for me.
So,
all right. Well, I apologize. Now both my wife and daughter are gone, so we should have all of the Wi-Fi to ourselves.
Not
So
for me. Everything's good for me.
yeah, and I hear all of you guys really well. So let's just, you're right, Kathleen. Let's just hope for the best. Otherwise, if we need to, we can restart it one more time. There.
I wonder if
is
it's the
kind of,
service provider.
What were you saying, Michelle?
Oh, I was just saying maybe like Ziply versus who's got the really good one and who's the service provider.
I have Comcast. I don't know what anybody else has.
And you can hear it clearly?
Yeah, now
no,
I'm having a
not at
really
all.
hard.
Well, I have Comcast and I have had clearness picture and I hear it never cuts out.
Wow.
It's not that then.
It's not Comcast.
Oh, we need to pin Michael again.
Lost his picture.
Okay, so I lost you guys completely there for a second.
Okay, we have
So-
these really lovely close-ups of us with, you know, in our full glory.
No picture. There you go.
It's
You're back.
interesting. So yeah, it does say my network bandwidth. Man, I wonder why we're having so much problems. I am going to blame it completely on the whatever's being done in the park.
You're gonna blame the drug users, huh?
The construction guys in the park.
Oh, there's construction. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's filled with Comcast trucks. So I'm guessing they're doing something over there.
Ah,
Yeah. Okay, so there kind of can see kind of the big shapes of my pine tree and everything else. I'll come back in and just do like I did with the oak tree, is I'm going to bring in the light kind of across the top, well, into the mids and then on the top, and then we'll put in a background. How does that sound?
Fun.
Great. Go for it.
So the pine tree hopefully is kind of an explosion out, kind of coming in. I've kind of got interesting variations. Not everything's the same. Nothing's too predictable. Maybe I want to even do a little bit of tree trimming here and get rid of a couple more things and branches and make it a little more spindly, maybe. Hint at the fact that, you know, it's got different types of sky holes and negative shapes. All right, so same thing. With the pine trees, you definitely get the warmer reddish greens, kind of thinking olivey. A great way to make your greens for pine trees is black and yellow combined. It makes a really beautiful kind of a shortcut green that's really nice for pine trees.
Which black?
Ideally, I think that it would be like, is it not chromatic black, but I think almost any of the others would work. I should know that.
like
It's a
ivory.
little too-
Payne's gray, will that work?
What's that?
Payne's gray.
Payne's gray will, but Payne's gray does have a little bit of white in it. Man, this is not light. So I'm just trying to darken that up. I got too light too fast. So again, I'm thinking kind of the tops of these pine boughs and letting the shadow exist underneath at the bottoms of them. So also I want them to come down in front of the tree as well. So it wouldn't be just only to the sides, right? Where our branches don't just go on the sides of the trees, they're also in the front and on the back and all the way around our structure.
What kind of yellow did you mix with your black?
I used the cadmium-free yellow by Utrecht, so it'd be kind of equivalent to a cadmium. You know, a little bit of red in the yellow is kind of nice. So I could even mix a tiny bit of my like Indian yellow into it. But I also just threw in a little bit of red, just because I know that I a lot of times if you get too green with a pine tree, it just doesn't feel right. So a little bit of red in there oftentimes really helps.
And these are opaque cadmium and blacks that you use that, so the color sits on top.
Can you say that again?
So basically opaque cadmium. And was your
Yeah,
the black?
exactly. And I just very lightly, and that's quite a bit of paint actually. I mean, hopefully you can kind of see the.
Yeah, it does look very bulky.
Yeah, I just kind of went, and same with the oak tree. It's kind of.
But it looks
just,
so 3D. It's amazing.
well, yeah, because you have the dark underneath. And now I'm just going to bring some light in. And I'm just going to do my favorite color, which is kind of the peach. Just put a peach sky in there, kind of maybe it's sunsetty a little bit behind there.
If you're doing spruce, you'd have to add a lot more blue, wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So that's where observation really kind of would come into play. And, you know, I'm just looking at a black and white silhouette, right? Yeah, so I don't even know. I have no idea even what type of tree that's actually supposed to be as far as very specific. And, you know, most people don't care, but I definitely have viewers who are, you know, like when I'm at my show, they'll literally want to know the names of the trees and everything else. And, you know, I'll try if I have an idea, but you know, I'm pretty open with the fact that naming things isn't my strength. My wife, when we go on walks, can literally walk down the path and name all the flowers and you know, lots of them. And my daughter's getting pretty good at that too, but that's never been a big concern of mine. You know, just able to name all the birds and all the other stuff. Let it get a little bluer grayer down towards the base. For whatever reason. And then I can just bring that in. So you can see I left a lot of that kind of silhouette-y softness. And now I can just kind of come in and cut with the paint that I've left in the background where I want it. Bring some of that light into that into the sky holes if I want them. So I'm still using my background to kind of create some of my negative shapes. So I'm thinking first I thought my positive, and then I went over the top of that, kind of colored it in. And now I'm using negative shapes to kind of create even more idea of form. Then it's up to you. You could go in reverse order, but some soft edges as well, some very hard edges, and then let's kind of soften up the or break up. Like I've got a couple of masses here that are quite big. Maybe I can very small sky holes. Kind of break that up.
So for our assignment, can we do this? Can we just paint separate trees, different
Oh, yeah,
types?
that'd be great. I would love that. Yeah, I just want you guys to experiment with, just like we did with the clouds, it's kind of the gesture, the edge quality, right? Where do you keep your hard edges? Hard edges, maybe down near like my trunk. Maybe I want to make sure that this not just floating in there. Maybe I just come in and really push that edge quality, making it sharper down there. You see how all of a sudden that just kind of grounds it a little bit? And then softer edges where I want kind of the dissipated, where the the needles or the leaves or whatever else. So I want you to look at your contour, the big outside shape of it, right? What's the main thing? We don't want to be thinking leaves and stuff too much. We're just thinking, what's the big shape? You know, in this one, very generically, it was a triangle. I wouldn't have drawn a triangle like I did in real life. You know, if I was out painting, that would just be a lot of unnecessary work. But I wanted to show you that, you know, you can start there, whatever shape, you know, and if I was drawing this and saw this kind of a tree and saw it in real life, maybe my shape wouldn't be a triangle. It'd be a much more irregular kind of mass. Yeah. So the goal is paint some trees. I don't care if you put them in a scene. I don't care if they're just floating like these are, just kind of existing in their own little happy place. So contour, edges, hard and soft edges, just like in the clouds. But there's going to be a lot less soft edges, right? Because soft edges equal the idea of transience and movement. So unless it's a windy day or something like that, or a foggy day, you're probably not going to have as many soft edges. Man, I just need one more. It'll be kind of a cool little collection. It's going to have to be somebody kind of spindly. That oak tree was hogged up a lot of space.
That's your homework, is to make this into one scene.
Make that into a scene, yeah. Yeah, I don't know what to do. That'll be interesting. I have to let the background either dry or something. Since I made a yellow background and a blue background, maybe I could do a red one or a green background over here on a red tree. Maybe do a plum tree over here and do a greenish sky. Maybe that'd be kind of cool. Yes, so I guess I should ask you, what is the homework? I know it wasn't the clearest.
Paint trees.
trees.
Okay, it was clear. Paint trees. Look for the
Trees.
irregularities. Go back and review the notes that I sent in the email. Read those one more time and then paint some trees. As many as you like, truthfully. And a scene or not a scene, that's completely up to you. You know, I kind of enjoy these little just kind of studies. And I think that we can learn more by doing more studies, by more little pieces of things. If I was trying to make it all perfect and, and get all the other stuff, I might get bogged down and might, not be learning as much and experimenting as much. So anyways, yep. 12 o'clock, we did it. We made it. I should give you guys 15 more minutes of class time since we messed up. Yeah, I see Michelle going, oh, please, no. This is plenty. Anyways, thank you guys as always. Class 3 in the bag, lots of fun. Yeah, I had a great time. Hopefully you guys learned some stuff there. Really quickly going forward, is that going to be enough for trees? Would you like to get to water next week?
Yeah, I think so.
Would like water, I think.
Cool. And the good thing is
I would like water.
we can always throw in some trees with water. So we will do
Yeah.
water. We'll probably do a creek with a reflection and then also probably like an ocean scene with rough water. That'll also give us an opportunity to use rocks in our water.
Right.
So we'll do tree, you'll be able to bring reflections in the trees in the creek if you want. So it all keeps coming back, right? And when we're doing water, if you throw a sky in, you also get reflections of the sky. So it's just kind of all building on itself. And then, so we'll do 2 weeks of water. And then the last 2 weeks will be design your own adventure. Can't wait to see what you guys come up with.
Woohoo.
So Michael, do you do glazing with the water?
Sometimes.
Interesting question.
But no, generally I try not to rely on glazing for too much of stuff, just because it can be kind of a crutch. And I think I learn more when I try to go, okay, how do I mix the color of depth, movement, and flow versus just relying on glazing to create this idea of transparency. But there are often times where I will come back in and glaze areas for sure. So I use, sometimes I use glazing to start with, and we can experiment with that. Maybe I'll do a black and white like of river rocks, right? And then we'll bring the water on top and see how that looks. I do know there's a number of artists who do that. And then also let's do where we're just trying to mix the right colors and put them in the right places to make the illusion of movement and everything else. So yes, go ahead, Michelle.
Do you have, I assume you have new work in the spring unveiling in Cannon Beach this weekend, right? Coming up?
I dropped off some paintings, yeah, but I'm not one of the featured artists. But yeah, I did just drop off this weekend, I think like 8 or 9 new pieces.
Ooh.
Some of them you might recognize from the back of my studio throughout the last classes.
What's the name of the gallery in Salem and on Cannon Beach?
In Salem, it is called Salem on the Edge. I'm not sure why, but that's the name of their gallery. And then in Cannon Beach, it is Dragonfire Gallery. And it's named that because it started off as a pottery studio. So burnt, the cooking of the pottery. But it's morphed into a very successful little gallery, or big gallery, I guess, pretty big.
Good looking, congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yeah. there you go. That was a lot. I can't believe how much stuff I dump on top of your guys' heads every week for 3 hours of nonstop.
Super.
But I really look forward to seeing your homework, or, don't call it homework, just call it fun painting time. And I will see you guys in a week, if not sooner somehow. And yeah, it was a pleasure. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you are going to
Right.
do some heavy painting or more painting other than the translucent one with the glazing, because I haven't mastered what I'm using for that yet, for the acrylics.
Yeah, no
so.
problem. No problem. And maybe I'll even do an acrylic painting. But I don't even have good acrylics. I just have like kids quality
Yeah.
acrylics. But I do love acrylics. I love painting on everything else. So
Yeah.
great.
Okay.
All right.
All right. I did not see this how everybody is like gone. I don't have the email for today. So I just went in through the 20th. So I don't know, maybe it's on there now, but before we started, it was not on my email. So did you send it that way or through Facebook?
Let me double check. I'm bringing it up right now.
Okay. Because it just wasn't showing on my end, and it could be, there's some delays on my side. They're doing some repairs from way back, the snow
Yeah, but I
time.
sent it last night.
Oh, okay. I'll go back and look.
Nope, it's on there. So you should be there. Yeah, it says
Huh.
you received
I'll
it.
go back and see if what I missed.
It
All
would
right.
have been yesterday at 2 p.m.
Okay, all
2:06.
right. I'll
Great.
check. All right,
Take
thanks.
care, Phyllis. Take care, Barbara. Take care, Kathleen. Take care, Fred.
Yeah.
Ian.
Thank
Both
All
Fred.
right, see you
Michael.
guys.
Thank-
You
Thank you,
too.
Michael.
Take care.
All
Thank
right.
you.
I had a blast. Take care.
Thanks.